I'm John Mitchell, and I want to talk about a subject today that deals partially with bankruptcy, but specifically with the issue of wage garnishments in the state of Florida. This tends to be a very, very important issue for a lot of people, but one of the things about the state of Florida is they have an extremely generous exemption on wages, on wage garnishments, which means that if someone is facing a wage garnishment, it's possible that the entire thing can be disregarded. Now, specifically, the law states that if you're the head of a family, then you cannot be garnished on the first $750 that you make every week. Now, being a head of family specifically means paying 51% of the living expenses for a dependent. So, if you qualify as head of family, then you cannot be garnished on your first $750 a week in wages. Now, the only way that you can be garnished for any amount over $750 a week is if you had signed a waiver. So, the bottom line is if you are a head of family, your wages cannot be garnished unless you have signed a waiver. Now, there's also one other exemption, or one other element of this. The wage garnishment exemption does not apply if you're an independent contractor. It only applies if you are working for another individual or if you have earnings that are not independently generated. Now, it's also possible to exempt 6 months worth of earnings in a bank if those are from wages, if they are identifiable, and if they're not mingled with other assets or income. Now, specifically what this means is that wages that have been deposited over 6 months, if they can be identified as being separate from other deposits that have been put into a bank account, then they will be treated as the residue of income and will be protected as well in the same way that wage garnishment exemptions apply to wages. So, the overall issues can be very complicated. But the good news is that if you live in Florida and you are facing a wage garnishment, the laws are extremely generous in protecting those and preventing any kind of seizure of wages.